Hey lovelies, you're welcome to reviews and recaps. And today's recap is of Ready to Love Miami season 8, episode 5. Let's get into it. So the first scene started with the elimination, and so the guys basically decided to eliminate Corvea. If you guys remember, Demario was trying to use the lifeline to save Corvea, but it seems like the guys did not totally agree on that. From what we saw last episode, it looked like Mark Anthony was the one who stood his ground and was like, it's too early in the process to use the lifeline, which I completely agree. So I'm glad that Mark Anthony stood his ground on that. I respect that. So anyways, moving on from that, Tommy suggested that everyone go to an after party, on land because they've been on the boat for a while. So they went to that Hard Rock Cafe, which was really cute. And it was good to see the people actually eating because I don't remember people really eating on the boat. So I don't think there was really food. There might have been finger foods, but I don't think there was really food. So it was nice to see the girls and the guys eating. And I can't, honestly, they looked like they really needed the meal. I don't know if anyone picked up on it. They were eating, really finishing off that plate, and I was here for it. So Morgan was basically sitting with Tony and Demario, and she was asking them it must have been really difficult for them. How did it all go, with having to eliminate Corvea and stuff. And Demario was like, yeah, that was his top connection. And I was like, well, top connection, okay, whatever. Follow her then. This is what I mean. If you're really looking for love and not fame, if your so-called top connection, who you're sure about that is really the person you're connecting with, guess what you do? You remove yourself from the process and follow them. That's just the vibe that if I was really thinking, okay, I'm head over heels, I've met someone, I think they're my exact fit and type and whatnot, and they're leaving the process, I'm going to have a conversation with them. You're leaving the process. Do you see something between us? Do you think this is something that you want to pursue outside of this? If they say yes, I'm like, all right, we out. I'm not going to stay there when I know I have no connections with anyone else. And he knew for a fact that I had no other connections. The only connections he had was Jeffrey and Corvea. And he knew that as soon as Jeffrey kissed Mark Anthony, there was never going to be a connection between her and him again. But yet, he still, decided to stay, which I would say that's your bad, bro. Next time, just get out and just move on. Anyways, over on the other side, Mark Anthony, Susu, Marcia, and Jeffrey were sitting together. I thought that was interesting that Susu and Jeffrey were sitting right next to each other. I guess it wasn't that deep, or maybe they squashed it or whatnot. I guess no one took it personally or whatnot. But anyways, there was a little bit of a reshuffling. Blake pulled Susu to the side for them to have a one-on-one conversation. So Blake starts to ask her, how is she feeling? And she was like, well, she is used to having conversations with difficult people and in difficult situations. But, in this whole process, she doesn't want to be doing that. I'm like, okay, girl, you were the one really giving the vibes. You were all about the smoke. So I don't know where that's coming from. Anyway, so Susu starts talking about her concern during the process and that she would rather leave with no one than leave with the wrong person. I'm like, dude, if you were really trying to leave with no one, you will not be choosing Blake. Blake, of all people, that man is all types of wrong. Even a blind person can see that man ain't no good. So I don't understand why she is really trying to force it. And that man does not rate you like that. Susu, come closer. Let me talk to you, sis. That man does not like you like that. He always gives off standoffish energy when he's around you. He doesn't look comfortable. His body language is hardly ever fully turned towards you. If that doesn't tell you what you want to know, I don't know what will, honey. Wake up, sis. But for me, the part that alarmed me was his response. He was like, oh, so does that mean that if I leave, you come with me? I'm like, guy, where did you get that from? She ain't say that. Bro, but I think Blake knows the kind of person he is, and he knows the kind of woman that he needs. He needs someone like Susu. And I say that because someone like Susu will put up with the nonsense and continue to defend him everywhere. So that's the kind of person, if you were a manipulative person and a controlling person, who would you choose? Someone who would be easily moldable? Someone who would defend you and not see the truth? Of course, you're not going to choose someone like Jeffrey, who already peeps who you are and is not with the shenanigans, because you know there would be too much conflict and you'll not be able to control her. But Susu, all you got to do is manipulate her, get her little something, smile at her, and she's all good. She's like a barest minimum kind of girl, respectfully. If there's any respectful way to say it, but she's very much giving that, and I don't like it. Anyway, Morgan was over the shenanigans and so was I. Morgan was like, guys, let's go dance. And she got everyone up and everyone was like dancing, doing a little twerk here and there, a little wine. It looks like they had fun, to be honest. And I'm here for that because I can imagine that elimination can be like quite difficult and emotionally draining. So I'm glad like they had their own like little time to just wind down after the craziness. So now it's like back to going on dates. So Cynthia and Anthony went on a date and, they were chatting and talking. It looks like they were connecting. One thing I would say is I feel like Cynthia is good on dates. She's like a good girl. She looks good every time she goes on a date. She goes there smiling. She always has good energy. And I think that's why she has such good dates. It's almost like she comes across as fun and she's like, if I'm here, I'm going to enjoy my time. And so she usually enjoys her dates. She also gives me the vibes of like someone who is ready to love. When someone is like fully open, she is ready to like open her heart and like, see what's out there for her. She gives me that vibes. So moving over to the other side, Demario and Jeffrey went out on a date. So Demario walked in that green shirt looking like a snack. He looked good in that shirt, I have to say. Colors actually look good on him. Anyway, so they start talking. And before that, the first thing I noticed was, I'm like, Jeffrey, girl, why is your face not matching your neck? Like, it was very much given, like, I forgot to use contour. And the highlight is a bit too light for my skin. I'm tan everywhere else, but my face is very much given yellow. Yeah, she needs to fix that. She's a beautiful woman. She just needs to like get on top of her makeup game so it matches. So back to their little date. So she's like, she felt like he was preoccupied during the boat hangouts, and they didn't really get like a chance to really speak. And he wasn't really giving her energy. And then he was like, yeah, I didn't speak to you. And so she's like, she was trying to get to the bottom of like what happened. And so he was like, he didn't appreciate her kissing Mark Anthony. And she was like, well, it was just part of the game and stuff. And that she went on a date with Mark Anthony before that. And that prior to that, she had reached out to him and he didn't even speak to her. So, of course, she was connecting with Mark Anthony and, that's who she decided to kiss. And so then this man proceeds to ask her, what will your kids say about their mom kissing someone? I'm like, bro, that is a low blow. That is out of line. You have no business saying that to a woman. She is a grown-ass woman. She can do what she wants. And those are her children. No need to bring her children into the conversation. He was hella wrong for that. So Jeffrey was like, they'll say their mom is building a connection. I'm like, yes, girl, you better say it. But I loved how she flipped it and said, what will my kids say about a guy that says he has this connection with me and walks right past me without speaking to me? I'm like, oops, you better speak on it. Not mad at all. I love the way she handles conflict. Like, she doesn't come across as like with rah energy. She very much gives, I will say my piece and I will let it go. And that's that. But I will say my piece. I will, say what I got to say, and so that's that. So I was like, all right, cool. Then Demario said basically in the confessionals that, he is basically everything that Jeffrey's done. He can't move past the whole kissing thing. And that also he has never seen her with makeup. I'm like, sir, what is your problem? Which one of the ladies on the show have you seen without makeup? Like, why would you use that as a reason for saying, you no longer want to connect? That was very much giving petty la boots. And I'm thinking, like, if she kissed you, let me bet it, you would not have had any problem with it, sir. You are only being petty now because you're like, how dare she kiss another man and not me? She hasn't known him for that long. She didn't know you for that long either. But if she kissed you, you would have been cool with it. Cool as a cucumber. For real. So I don't know what he's on about. So yeah, not here for that. Anyways, Marcia, Jeffrey, Blake, and Blue went on a meditation date. And I thought that was interesting-ish. The reason I thought it was interesting was because it was very much given Marcia was trying to figure out what was going on between Jeffrey and Blake. It was almost like, okay, that was Blake's opportunity to be like, no, Jeffrey, that's not what I said, So it was very much given Marcia was trying to set all of that up, okay? So after the meditation or whatnot, they decided to make a collage of with newspapers and stuff and just create art with it. And it was interesting to see what each person created. So Marcia created something which seemed really balanced. He had Rihanna, he had Beyonce on there, he had family on there. And then Blake created something that just had times, just watches. And I just thought, is he on the spectrum or something? And then when he was asked to explain why he chose times, it was like, time is like a very precious commodity or something like that. I'm like, okay. So you now had to use times over and over again, like watches over and over again. That's interesting. Anyways, moving over to Jeffrey and Blue. Blue made his artwork, which had a lot of things with family, traveling, and a lot of the things that he had on there, also incorporated things he would want to do with his family and in his future. And then Jeffrey also had family and leadership, with her husband and all of that on her collage. I think Jeffrey and Blue might suit in terms of what they both want. Jeffrey wants a man that can stand and take care of her children. Blue definitely gives me the vibes. I will look after you, your children, no issues with that. I have children myself. I want someone who can do life experiences with me. And I feel like Jeffrey is a good balance of activities, even if she's not interested in that activity, like the mechanical bull thing, she was still a good sport, jumped on it and did it once, right? So I think they definitely match in terms of flexibility there and things that they want. I don't know if Jeffrey is attracted to him. That would be the question. I think the part that was really interesting to me was Marcia was not liking Blue. I'm like, girl, it's a bit too late for that, because when you had the opportunity to go on a date with him, you were very much given I ain't with this, I ain't do this, I don't want to do that. And Blue was not feeling that, because Blue really tried. He was like, oh, so what if, you don't have to be outside, it doesn't have to be in, you could just be in a cabin. It's like, why would I be doing in a cabin for days? Like, girl, you were sounding like you ain't with it. And so he was not here for it, okay? So Marcia, in the interest of trying to stir things up, decided to ask, she decided to go off and say, you and Blake had a little something, there was some tension and whatnot, and asked if Blake wanted to address it. Blake then said, it wasn't worth addressing, so he would respectfully decline to address it. Here's the thing. I feel like Blake is not addressing it because he knows that he lied, and he knows Jeffrey will get that ass. She really will. I have no doubts that girl, she ain't gonna let it go. She will get him. So then when Marcia basically looked over to Jeffrey to see if she wanted to address anything, Jeffrey was like, well, that's on Blake. He was the one that was hurt and had concerns, and if he doesn't want to address it, then, we good. And so that was that. I guess Marcia definitely did not get what she was hoping to get. I suspect. She was hoping for a little bit of drama, but that did not happen. Did you see the way Blake looked at Jeffrey when he said that? I was like, bro, what is this? So moving over to Morgan and Tony. Morgan and Tony were having their own little date. It was interesting how Morgan like gets so giddy when she's around Tony. It's actually kind of cute. I just hope Tony is not a player, because when he's in front of Morgan, he acts like Morgan is the only connection that he has. But then in his confessionals, he was talking about his connection with Zonique and Marcia. So I'm like, girl, dude, what do you want? And Tony definitely likes women with the body, because all those women got the body. I'm just saying, just shout out to Tony. But I am curious, like, is he being very genuine in terms of Morgan? I get the impression, this is probably me, like, trying to predict, but I get the impression that Tony and Morgan are together in, like, right now. That's just the impression I get. So after the show, they stay together. That's what I think. But I guess we'll find out. So moving over to the other side, Zonique was having a date with Blake, and that date was awkward as hell. Like, it was so awkward. So Zonique was trying to get to know him, was asking him generally, like, how is the journey going for him? And then he said to her, if you ask me a general question, I can only give you a general answer. I'm like, bro, why are you coming with that energy? Like, I personally believe that Blake was put there to stir up Ish, because I don't understand. Like, why isn't he gone now? Like, he's still there, and this is what, episode 5? Like, it's ridiculous at this point. He shouldn't be there. So then he's like, he can only give a general answer. Now, so Zonique starts asking him questions about, like, things and just trying to get to know him. And he was not really, like, he was responding, but he wasn't like, when someone responds and then they try to get to know you and then they ask you questions. He wasn't given any of that. It's like, the date was so boring. She was really driving the date, really trying to ask all the questions. He wasn't here for it. There was a point where she was even like, do you have any questions for me? Anything you'd like to know? He was like, no. I'm just receiving what you're saying to me. I'm like, bruh, let's just be going home. There's no point. Like, why are we here if you're not going to ask me questions to try to get to know me? So that was very much given very standoffish energy. So moving on to the other side, the ladies were now back at the ladies' lounge. And so Tommy was like asking the ladies, like, how did their dates go? Morgan talked about her date with Tony, how she really enjoyed it. Lovely. One thing I love about Morgan is she did not mention the kiss that she had with Tony, and I thought that was really interesting. That's a smart woman. Because if you mention the kiss that you have with Tony, then his other connections will probably try to get him voted out off, because they'll be like, how did he kiss you and not me? And then that would now stir up some mess, which it always does on the show. So good on her. Very smart for not bringing that up. Shout out to Morgan. Anyways, so moving on, Marcia starts talking about the fact that, she likes Blue and whatnot. I'm like, girl, Blue don't like you no more. Unless you're going to, like, sweet talk him after that date that you had with him. That man is over you, honey. So you have some explaining to do if you want it to work. Anyways, over on the other side, so Tommy starts asking Jeffrey about her dates with Demario. And so she's like, Demario was basically saying to her that he was thrown off by the kiss with Mark Anthony, and then asked her what her kids would think if they saw her kiss Mark Anthony. Then Susu jumped in. Why are you interrupting a woman talking about her connection with someone else? What is your business? She ain't even bring Blake up. Like, you are giving press like a panini, sis. Chill. So she jumps in. Like, Susu gives me pick-me energy, and I'm not here for it at all. Do you guys agree? Let me know in the comment section below. So I love how Jeffrey shut her down real quick and was like, you seem to be the advocate for the men. I'm like, ooh, you better call her out. That's one thing I love about Jeffrey. She will call you out if she does nothing else. Like, she really called her out, and I was so here for it. She's like, you seem to be the advocate for the men. Is there any other questions that you have? I'm like, girl, I love how she called her out. I would have called her out too, because she's very much giving obsessed. There's no reason for you to be jumping in when someone is talking about their connections. Let her talk. It's her business. And when Blake shows you Pepe, You will not come and be crying on the streets of the internet talking about this is what you experienced with Blake. Like, people are not going to feel sorry for you because of the energy you were given to Jeffrey this season. So you better like play it carefully, my sister. Play it carefully, Han. And this is coming from someone who is an advocate, as per we have similar jobs, So I'm just saying, I don't go about advocating for random people, honey. They didn't pay you to do that. Unless Mr. Blake is paying you to be his attorney. Like, is that something you want to tell us, sis? Anyways, moving on. Jeffrey said in her confessional, advocate Susu in relation to Jeffrey's men. I'm like, ooh, girl. They definitely better keep Jeffrey on the show because she is the show. Like, I'm loving her energy, her vibe. I feel like Ready to Love would be boring this season if Jeffrey was not on the show. That's all I'm saying. Because there are no connections there. No one is really, really connecting like that. I think Mark Anthony and Mercedes connected initially, but Mark Anthony was also connecting with Jeffrey. So I don't know no more, man. Anyways, it was very much given Susu the obsessed, Susu the advocate. And I wasn't here for it. Anyways, we moved. So nephew Tommy was basically asking them, so who are you guys not connecting with? So a lot of them said Blake and others said Demario. And then 2 of the girls mentioned Mark Anthony. And one said he doesn't want to date women with children. I'm like, yeah, but he was in Jeffrey's face lying to Jeffrey. So Jeffrey, girl, take it from me. You need to find another man, probably Blue or someone else. But you need to find someone else, honey. Because that man does not want a woman with children. He does not want to be tied down to kids. He wants to be on his merry way, enjoying his life. And that's that, honey. Anyway, so the ladies took Blake and Demario on a date. So Cynthia took Blake out on a date and Zonique took Demario out on a date. And so Cynthia basically told Blake, straight up, like, you have to have a straight up conversation. If you're saying it is a lie, basically come out here and say it's a lie. Don't be, because you're direct about everything else, but you're not direct when it comes to addressing Jeffrey. What are you hiding, bro? It's very much given you are hiding something and I'm not here for it. And so then over on the other side, Zonique told Demario that he's not ready to love and the ladies have decided or whatnot. And I'm like, well, fair enough. So go on there and chase Corvea if that's who you're really interested in. I guess we'll find out in the reunion. But yeah, that was where it ended. And so it would be interesting to see how next episode goes. To be honest, I feel like these episodes are going as well as they're going because of Jeffrey and the entertainment Jeffrey and Susu are bringing to us. And Blake, even though I can't stand his ass and I'm ready for him to go. Also, I'm ready to see actual genuine connections, but I don't think I'm going to see any genuine connections on the show in this season. But I guess it's too early to tell. We'll have to wait and see. Anyways, thank you very much for listening. Give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. And please tap that button so you know every single time that I post. Thank you. See you later. Bye.